Talk about the worst first date ever. Christopher Landon's Drop has dropped in theaters, and it's all about anonymous drops to a mobile. Should you drop everything and go see this, or should you wait until Drop comes to streaming? Also, did you notice how many times I inserted Drop into this intro? A widowed mother's first date in years takes a terrifying turn when she's bombarded with anonymous, threatening messages on her phone during their upscale dinner, leaving her question if her charming date is behind the harassment. So this stars Meghann Fahy as Violett, Brandon Sklenar as Henry, and Violett Beane as Jen. And the majority of the film takes place in a restaurant that's many stories up in this super tall building. The movie starts out with a disturbingly horrifying scene, which I think could instantly trigger anybody who has experienced domestic assault, really any assault of any kind. Then we're taken on Violett and Henry's date, where the restaurant, it's ritzy and expensive, also very crowded. And if you've seen the trailer, Violett begins getting these photo drops to her phone. They start off odd, slightly creepy, maybe intrusive, and then turn personal and threatening. We're then taken through a game of not who done it, but who's doing it to figure out the person responsible for the drops. I like that first because the restaurant is crowded, we're given a large amount of initial suspects. And then, when some are eliminated, there are more than a handful that are believably potential as the baddie. Or baddies. I was constantly guessing in my mind who I thought was doing the drops. Happy to say that the story kept me speculating and being wrong. Now, one smaller aspect of the mystery, that was fairly obvious, but it's such a non-thing that it doesn't really even matter. But the main crux of who is manipulating Violett into doing what they want through the phone drops, that is twisting, mysterious, and certainly not easy to figure out. Now, I love, too, that there is a good amount of tension that is maintained throughout the majority of the story. As Violett is pulled in one direction and then another, having orders dictated to her with credible threats attached, there is this consistent uneasiness and stress that permeates the tone. Now, I don't think I was really aware of how tensed up I was until after the movie. My shoulders and my butt hurt just from clenching due to all the anxiety. Now, even though the movie is only an hour and 40 minutes, portions did feel longer than that. I mean, I was beginning to notice the time, even though I was kept in suspense. The majority of the storytelling, it takes place within the restaurant. And while a central and contained location is excellent for setting up a taut thriller, the amount of times that Violett went back and forth to either stall, try to get help, or just simply follow directions, it began to feel repetitive. And during all these, there was a certain lack of interaction between Violett and Henry. And for me, when they were sharing some vulnerable conversations, that's when I connected with them the most. And that then increased the dread and the nervousness. I mean, without these small moments of talking, while the stress would still be there, Henry would be pretty much a stranger to us, and it wouldn't matter too much about his fate, even if he does seem like an okay guy. I love that the underlying plot and motives are pretty simplistic and straightforward. I mean, sure, the scheme is complex and twisty, but the reason it's happening, it's so easy that it maintains a lot of believability. And despite the violent opening, the majority of the story is actually pretty tame when it comes to physicality. But once the final act arrives, this then becomes a brawling action flick, filled with some gnarly stunt work that has people being tossed around like ragdolls. And while most of the filming for this is fine and serviceable, the action sequences employ some immersive camera movements that work to put us into the character's place. I don't know if you remember the scene in Upgrade when Logan Marshall Green rises up and the camera also follows, rotating to match the perspective. Well, the camera does that here a couple of times, and when that's combined with the action that's taking place, it is a very immersive series of shots. Now, some of the shots in the restaurant, they are meant to feel a bit noirish, but they felt cheesy. More than a couple of scenes have all of the surrounding lighting go dark, so that only a central character or a couple are illuminated. Now, obviously, it's meant to draw our focus to this, blocking everything out other than the subject, but it came across as an awkward decision rather than something creative. And because the technique is used 3 or 5 times, it also became a bit cringy. From a production standpoint, I don't think this is anything super special. I mean, the setting is elegant and pretty, but the presentation could have been a streaming production. It's not something that screams cinema. I think that's okay. Now, there is one bit that requires some CGI, and it was extremely rough. Like, terrible rough. Now, luckily, this is brief and only used once, so it's kind of easy to forgive. But it also is used for part of the climax, so in that sense, it's a bit unforgivable. I think the acting is what really helps to sell the story. Both Fahy and Sklenar have unbelievably strained chemistry. Their date doesn't go as expected, and there are multiple complications that hinder their interactions. But they have a dynamic that made me want them to stick it out, to have a great date, and then to have a burgeoning relationship. And because we don't get any time with them as a potential couple before the restaurant, the actors have a very short time to get us engaged with them and then create a bond that we root for. So overall, Drop is a tense and wild ride, full of suspicion and anxiety. Meghann Fahy and Brandon Sklenar deliver captivating performances that surprisingly venture into raw and vulnerable territory, giving their characters depth despite the short amount of time we spend with them. The mystery aspect will keep you guessing, and even though there's a very wonky CGI segment, the rest of the contained setting sets up a stressful and dangerous space that will eat at your nerves and make you clench your butt. There's no sex or nudity, some profanity, and some intense violence, including domestic assault. I give Drop 3.5 out of 5 couches. So have you seen any decent thrillers lately? I'd love to hear about what you watched in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.